Hi, I'm Kat, and this is today's tarot. Just a little update on me. I'm almost done moving. Yay. It's been quite the process of ping-ponging between the city and the mountains, just trying to get everything moved and situated because, as some of you know, I'm also a seamstress and also make medicine. So I have an apothecary and a whole sewing room amongst all the other things that I do that I needed to move as well. So it's been quite the process to relocate. But it's really exciting for me because I've lived in a kind of city space for my entire life. And so I'm really excited to be out in the mountains and just living closer to the earth. But there is a huge drought up there, which makes me really conscious of water. And because I live really remotely, I also am a lot more conscious of waste. And it just puts everything in a much different perspective when you live further out of the city and you have to look at what you create every day waste-wise and what you use every day and what is actually essential to have and what I'm going to be making, because I don't want to necessarily buy something in a box or in a bag. So I'm excited to do more gardening, make a lot of my own food from scratch, which I usually do, but I don't typically make crackers and things like that unless they're like flax crackers. So I'm excited to just kind of venture into some different things as far as food preparation while I live in this herbalist education center. It'll be a really fun experience, I think, and I'm looking forward to it. I will post events if anyone's interested in any of those medicine making workshops or different workshops that we have on the property. And then if you're interested in attending any of those, of course, check out the workshop page on elderberriesfarm.com. So, or elderberries.com. It used to be elderberriesfarm.com. So as far as the tarot goes and as far as the astrology goes, we did just go through an eclipse and we are getting ready and approaching the summer solstice, which is going to be the longest day of daylight in the year. And at that time, it's like all of the energy is at this kind of zenith quality to it. And so we get a lot of clear perspectives as far as where we're going. And then we go into the rest of the year with that energy. And so there's a really powerful time that we're getting ready to approach. And I'll go more into the astrology and the readings over the coming days as we approach that time. Now, let's just jump into today's tarot. I know that was a lot of jibber jabber around my life, but some people ask me. And so I just wanted to give an update. And I also wanted to reach out and ask anyone if you've noticed anything interesting or haven't had any shifts in perspective in your own life with these eclipses, the eclipse that we just went through and the summer solstice that we're approaching, because there is a lot of transformation around our perspective and how we look at things and how our beliefs around things that we've held for a really long time. Those are shifting right now. So if you've had any epiphanies or observations in yourself or in others, I would appreciate you sharing below if you feel comfortable, because I think it's important that we all realize we're not actually alone in this world. Even if we feel like our experience is really unique, it's quite likely that there are a number of people who have also gone through that experience or are currently going through that experience. And it is really useful, I think, for people to share so that we realize that we're on this ship with other people, even if we think we're alone most of the time. So I encourage you to do that because it lets me know where you're at, and then I can share more about where I'm at, and hopefully we can create a space of exchange and help for each other. So with that said, let's get into the cards. The first card that we have for today, which is the opening card for the day, is the Five of Wands. Now, wands are all about our willfulness. It's our fire of our spirit. And it's what causes us to engage, right? Like we see something, the fire pulls us to engage with it. There's five here, which is this crossroads in how do you want to engage? Are you going to engage in a place of conflict, or are you going to engage in from a space of cooperation? So we have five individuals, all with their own wands. And if you look at the card, you're like, are they fighting? Are they playing? Are they training? What exactly are they doing? that's what we're going into the day with, is how do we want to approach this energy? Do we want to be cooperative, or do we want to cause conflict and engage in this way of aggressiveness, or in a place of playfulness? Like, do you want to dance in the experience, or do you want to fight the experience? So that's the energy we're going into today. And it's important for us to take a step back and remember that we do have a choice in regard to how we want to engage. And it reminds me of a friend of mine who was telling me that he was driving down the road and someone cut him off, and the guy rolled down his window and he was like, you know, all ready to be road raging. And my friend rolled down the window and said, "I love you, man," which probably wasn't what the guy expected. But it draws that example of, we have a choice. How do you want to engage? How much of your own power and center do you want to give to a situation? Do you want to let it eat your day? Do you want to, you know, let it go? Do you want to work with it and let it pass? So that's the energy that we are starting the day with. So hopefully you choose the cooperative play rather than, you know, the aggressiveness conflict, but sometimes that's necessary too, right? So the challenge that we are facing for today is the Four of Cups. So we are in a space of contemplating an emotional matter, possibly even a new emotional situation. And it's a situation that looks like it's going to be offered from the outside. And so we're looking at this situation we already have, which is 3 cups. And it's like, okay, well, this is satisfactory, it's all right. And then this new opportunity, or this new possible emotional situation comes in that then is offering us this idea of like, well, maybe I want something else. This is a card that's reminding us that emotional satiation and satisfaction does not come from the outside. It comes from the inside and how we feel about a situation. And so it's reminding us to not put all of our emotional health in what's happening externally, and to instead focus on what brings us joy from an inner space. Like, what can we do for ourselves from an inner space? And this is a challenge because we can get stuck in this current of like emotional consideration, which can make us miss the time that's available today for us to accomplish whatever it is that we are here to do. Now, it's interesting because the card that comes up as far as how we're going to work through the challenge is the 5 of Swords. The 5 of Swords is a card of, you know, are you going to act, or are you going to let it go? Swords are associated with communications, ways that we think about things, beliefs. And you see this person is holding 2 swords, or actually 2 swords in one hand, 1 sword in the second hand, and there's 2 swords in the ground. And there's these figures in the background that are kind of walking away a bit sheepishly and defeated. And so this is a card asking us, like, what do you want to say? What do you feel like you need to say? And is it actually important to say it? Because you may be getting an opportunity to do that, and you have to check in with yourself, right? Like, we have this emotional contemplation, but do you feel the need to say anything, or are you going to just let it go? It's likely that a situation is coming up today because we need to revisit it, and it's giving us an opportunity to do that. So that's how we work through that challenge of the emotional contemplation card. The overall energy that we have for today is the 7 of Pentacles. This is a card that's typically associated with having patience in a situation, and also looking at how time affects and interplays with a situation. You can see that the person standing in this card is kind of looking over a bush that has these 6 pentacles that are on the bush and 1 pentacle that's drawn over to the side. So the 7 of Pentacles is all about, you know, looking at our harvest, looking at the work that we've done, looking at how our beliefs have fruited different things and ripen different things in our life, and taking, you know, some sort of inventory around that. Like, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and how do I want to plan in the future? And also consider that, you know, in the realm of gardening, which this picture is actually depicting, there's a certain amount of preparing something and, you know, laying the seed and watering the seed and feeding the plant. And then there's a period of waiting and patience to allow something to happen, to allow something to form. And so we have to set aside our, you know, desire to harvest the fruit, right? Like the moment that the plant starts budding is not the time to harvest the fruit if you're trying to grow squash, right? You have to allow time to do its magic on a situation. And so this is reminding us of that. You know, as much as we want this finite, solid thing that's going to bring us emotional happiness, you know, we have to consider what time is going to reveal, because time is ultimately the most like wild card of variables, because there's so much potential, so much opportunity that can come in through time that the mind didn't even consider because of its own, you know, speck of limitation as far as what it feels is possible and what it feels is not possible. And so in that way, that certainty around what is and isn't possible can be our greatest limitation. Whereas if we take a stance of, let's see what happens, you know, after I've done all the things, I've set the seed, I've watered the seed, I'm feeding it, let's see what happens now. And it, you know, gardeners don't do the same thing every year, because you have to figure out what is working and what isn't working, right? If you're growing peppers, for instance, hot peppers, and you put them in your garden bed with all of your other plants, you're gonna be watering that pepper the same way that you water all of your other plants. But peppers wanna be really hot. They don't want the same care as other plants. So they would do really well in like their own bed that gets really hot, or even in a black pot, because it attracts heat to it and your pepper is going to respond to that really well. Whereas a tomato in a black pot is just gonna dry out and, you know, not have a lot of space to actually grow its root system, because it's a huge, huge plant. So it's important to learn from what we do and consider our behaviors that we've done in the past and how time has affected that, and learn from it rather than, you know, take a wand and beat ourselves over the head with it. So ultimately, the overall energy for today is have patience. You know, we have all minor arcanas today, which usually we've been having at least one major arcana in the readings of the past, but we have a 5 of Wands, we have a 4 of Cups, a 5 of Swords, and a 7 of Pentacles. And so these are all just day-to-day matters. So if something comes in today that feels intense, remember that it's temporary. It's only gonna last for so long. It's not one of the major arcanas that's like you're going to deal with this lesson and this situation's gonna sit here until you deal with it. It's not that type of arena today. It's more a day of, okay, let's go through the day. Let's see what impressions come in. Let's see how my sensory body responds to these impressions, and what calls me to engage, and what gives me hesitancy, and what I just see and witness through impressions through the day will reveal quite a lot if we are aware and attentive to it. But if we're so deep in our own mind around conflict and things that we're caught up in that we feel like need to be said but we don't say, we miss our opportunity to actually witness the impressions for the day, because we're so identified with the thoughts or feelings that we're swimming in. So we are, you know, a holistic being. We have a mind, body, emotions, a spirit, and when they're all working together in unison, that's a beautiful day. But a lot of times they will kind of do this tug of war with each other. We'll feel something, the mind will try to, you know, justify it or switch it, or, you know, do what the mind does, because it can be quite the conditioned monkey mind. But our emotions are really a center for us that brings us a whole different realm of intelligence than our mind can. You know, and I encourage people to tap into that emotional intelligence, because it's what will guide you into places that the mind would tell you are limiting, and it will also guide you out of situations that the mind justifies as okay, because our emotional intelligence is ultimately our compass. And if we can learn to work with that compass, we can get through life with more ease and grace, I believe. So that is our reading for today. In the coming days, I'll probably share a video around what made me move to the mountains, because I did have a lot of back and forth energy around, am I gonna go, am I gonna stay, what am I gonna do, because the whole arena for me to move has shifted through many, many months. And some people have asked me about that and wondered why I ended up moving. So I'm gonna make a video just to share for people who are curious and are wondering why. And it's a combination of symbols and astrology and astrocartography and my own emotional pull to do something different. And with that said, I send you a good wish as we go through these changes, and I encourage you to listen to your emotional center and your senses as far as what situations feel healthy for you, which ones you want to engage in, and which ones you want to just draw back from and witness, because we can learn a lot through that. I send you a good wish today and so much love, and I will see you again soon.